Hi, and welcome to the Passionistas Project podcast, where we talk with women who are following their passions to inspire you to do the same. We're Amy and Nancy Harrington, and today we're talking with Kimberly Stewart, the founder of Be Weird, Make Money. She helps people design a life and make a living in a world where they feel like they don't belong. She helps creative people identify different ways to combine their passions and talents to build completely unique, individualized, profitable businesses. So please welcome to the show, Kimberly Stewart.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
What's the one thing you're most passionate about?
Doing your own thing and, me doing my own thing and helping others to do the same. It's the one thing I can remember throughout my entire life being a driving force is, being able to be myself, be original. My rallying cry, like my Superman moment is when I hear people being marginalized or, oh, you can't do that, or, oh, just be quiet, or, and I just really want to help people be more themselves in the world, because I think that's what the world needs.
So what's the name of your company and how do you help people do that?
So Be Weird, Make Money came about from when I was applying to speak at a convention, and they said, if what would the title of your talk be? Because at the time I was more, my company was Catalyst Chem Productions, and, catalyst being, the chemical production that gets things moving. And I thought, I've been to a lot of really fun, funky conventions, and if I was looking through the program to see which talks I wanted to go to, I said, Be Weird, Make Money. I would go to that. It was short, sweet, and to the point. I've been helping people in some form or fashion for the last 17 years create their own livelihoods. My one mentor, Valerie Young, created Changing Course and the Profit from Your Passions Consulting. And so I was trained in that. And the guiding question with that is, what do you want your life to look like? I had been trying to help people in what felt like a very normal, standard, mainstream way. And I wanted to break out of that because I didn't quite understand the folks from like the cubicle farm, people who are, having regular jobs and stuff like that, which are very fine, but regular things. And, here I am, I'm very creative. I'm a theater person, Renaissance festivals, sci-fi conventions. I wrote a book about how to have Halloween-based businesses. And so I was like, there's a whole world of people who are ignored by traditional career counselors. So like all those people who want better jobs or better careers, there's plenty of people to help them. But the people who are like soft and nerfy and weird, who want to do like really oddball things, there's no one really to help guide them. And so I was like, I will be the Pied Piper of weird little businesses. So, and how I help them is I kind of identify what they love and what they want their lives to look like, which again is not a traditional career question. Usually people, when they're talking about work or jobs, they know what your life is going to look like. Most likely it's going to be 9 to 5 or 8 to late, 50 weeks a year. And I don't assume that ever. Once I get an idea of what people want their lives to look like and what they love, and then we can start generating some ideas. And so that's kind of the basis of where I start.
Let's go back a little bit. Tell us about where you went to college, and when you were there, you were a success team leader. So tell us what that is and how that helped you in your path.
So I went to college at Naropa University here in Boulder, Colorado, and that's a Buddhist-based liberal arts college. And I was studying psychology and visual art. I had originally gone there wanting to be an art therapist. And kind of halfway through my studies there, I became aware of Barbara Scher and her work creating success teams. And I remember I had listened to one of her audiobooks on a road trip, and she mentioned success teams, which is a group of about 6 people who get together for, and help each other identify and go after goals. And I thought, wow, I could use one of those. And I know a whole bunch of people who could use one of those. I wonder if there's one in Boulder. And at that time, she had just started registering people as success team leaders. She couldn't do this all herself. So she needed to be able to train people to do this. And so I wrote to her and she goes, I think you'd be a great fit for being a leader. And I said, okay. if you say so. And I signed up and got trained. She came out to Boulder later that year with Valerie Young and Barbara Winter. And they ran this really cool 4-day event. And before it, Barbara called me and said, hey, do you want to come attend as my guest? And I was like, sure. And so I got to meet all kinds of really neat people and kind of get started really with this process, because secretly, I picked her up at the airport because I was the local team leader. And as soon as she got in the car, I was like, Barbara, I have a confession to make. I registered as a team leader back in February, and now it's June and I haven't run a team. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. Nobody has yet. And here I thought I was a failure. And, she's like, oh no, don't worry. No one's really run one yet. So she helped me kind of leapfrog. And soon after, I think it was within like 3 or 4 weeks of that event in June, I ran my first success team. And, I'm still in contact with some of those people, so that was all the way back in 2003. Since then, I've run about 15 teams, and on average about one a year. And they're just amazing. I really love the people that I get to meet. What I love about this work and what keeps me coming back to it is that moment when someone feels heard, because they've often been holding on to this like quirky little idea that they're afraid that they're going to get laughed at if they tell anyone. And they just kind of share it with me in the group, and everyone's like, yeah, I think that sounds great. And, and they're just like, oh, really? You mean this could happen? And it's just such a beautiful thing. I mean, even as I'm talking, I'm getting goosebumps because it's happened so frequently. And one of the fun things about the success team, so a formal success team runs for 8 weeks. And in the 7th week, after people have been kind of working on their goals and making progress, because each week you talk about like, okay, so, once you've figured out your goal, what are you going to do this week? And then you report back in and you say, your team will be like, okay, how did it go? And a lot of times like, I didn't actually get anything done. But the team is never going to reprimand you or be mean. They're like, okay, what do you need help with? And then you get it done. With the idea party in the 7th week, you invite friends and family and you say, okay, I've been working on this goal. Here's my dream. Here's my obstacle. Does anybody have anything for me? The best story I ever had from an idea party was there was these 2 fellas in Denver, and one guy was born in Denver, the other guy was born in Ghana in Africa. And their goal, their dream, was to get mechanized farming equipment from the United States or wherever to Ghana to help people who were still farming by hand. And it's not that the land wasn't good, it's just that they didn't have the technology. And the guys said, here's our goal. We don't have any money. We don't have any equipment. We just have this dream. And so, they're like, does anybody have any ideas to help us? And so one guy raises his hand and says, well, why don't you contact the manufacturers of farming equipment to see if they would sell you or donate to you old equipment or something like that. As I live and breathe, the second person to raise her hand said, my brother-in-law is the retired CEO of John Deere. And, and I was like, get that lady's phone number. Now, I have since lost touch with them to find out what happened after that, but it was just that kind of power of you never know what you know until somebody asks you. And so I've been doing the success team work, and I love that. And that's group work. And then from that initial event in Boulder in 2003, I met Valerie Young, who I mentioned earlier, and she has a training program that teaches people how to work with people one-on-one. And I love that too. And so I kind of blend them both. And that's kind of, again, where Be Weird, Make Money was born from. It's kind of my synthesis of the training I've gotten from them.
So talk about how you work with people one-on-one. What's that process like?
First, I have them do some homework where I have them write out, all the things that they love, even if it doesn't feel like it would be part of the money-making process. And then I have them do an exercise that's called the ideal day. And some people can do the ideal day, week, month, year, whatever. So I can get a picture, again, of what they want their lives to look like. A funny example that Valerie gave that I realized it applies to my folks too is I would often start our working together process with the question, so what time of day, what time in the morning do you want to wake up? And somebody said, does it have to be morning? No, I guess not. And so particularly for my crowd, there are a lot of really nocturnal people, but it's kind of like if people want to work in bursts, like if they want to work for half the year, 6 months a year, and travel half the year, again, that's something I can accommodate. So we, have them fill out their assignment, and then we have a 90-minute talk where, I get a clearer picture, because what they write is one thing, but it's that listening to when they talk and when they get excited, or when they're really excited, usually the voice drops a little, and because they're afraid, because it's very special. And so that's what talking to them. And then once we kind of bandy about some ideas, I'm like, okay, do you want to make a living that is connected to your passion? Or do you want to make enough money to have a comfortable life, so that you can work on your passion? Because sometimes people, especially creative people, sometimes there's that fine line of, I don't want to create on command, because that takes the fun out of it. I just want time to work on my creative projects. And I almost don't care what the work is, as long as it pays the bills. So then we, once we kind of figure that out, then I walk them down the nuts and bolts process of, okay, well, here's what you need to do. Here's the steps, the first steps that you're going to need. Something I've learned to say is I help bridge the gap between knowing how to art and knowing how to business. Because I have studied small business for so long, because that's a passion of mine. Even though if it's like straightforward, boring business, you can apply creative fields to that, but a lot of people aren't necessarily doing that. So that's what I like to do. And so that last part, the nuts and bolts part, is that bridging the gap. Like, okay, so here's where you need to go. Here's who you need to talk to. Sometimes I don't really know how to do the thing, but I know what you need to do. And so I'll tell people right out the gate, like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to make a website, but I know you need one. You can go to help, here's the best practices for a website. I just don't know how to do it. And that's okay. Like, for a long time, I used to be really shy, like, oh golly, I don't know how to do this. And it's like, why do I have to know how to do it? I just have to know where to send people and be a resource.
Do you find that there's a common stumbling block or issue that gets in the way of your clients getting started?
A lot of times it's one of two things. One, it's I don't know how to monetize this, or, I just don't know what this would look like as a business. I know I love to do this, but I don't know if anybody would pay me for it. But then the other part is something that my mentor Valerie actually wrote a book about, the imposter syndrome. And that's that lack of confidence, that fear of being found out as a fraud, and that who am I to be doing this? Who am I to be sharing this? But it's like, why would anybody pay me to do this? I think the biggest thing is kind of like the lack of confidence, and then the lack of just basic know-how, because I think once people are aware of, oh, that's how people make money with that. Okay, I can do that. It's like learning a new practice of anything, learning a new exercise and muscle memory. It's just like, oh, okay, I never knew that. Nobody ever taught that to me. So now that fills in that gap, and now I know how to move forward.
We're Amy and Nancy Harrington, and you're listening to the Passionistas Project podcast and our interview with Kimberly Stewart, the founder of Be Weird, Make Money. Learn more about Kimberly at BeWeirdMakeMoney.com. Now here's more of our interview with Kimberly. What are some of the success stories of people you've dealt with, and has there ever been anything so weird that you weren't able to help them turn it into a business?
My favorite success story ever of someone I worked with was this young lady I helped. She was an artist, and we met at where I was doing a live event. She was like, wow, so what do you do? And I told her, I'd help people be creative and get paid for it. And she's like, great, I want to do 1,000 things. Cool. I want you to do all 1,000 of them, but we have to start with one. And so we started working together, and it turned out that she wanted to get her artwork printed on a multitude of different products, like t-shirts, mugs, beer koozies, that sort of thing. And she's like, but I don't know how to do that. And she's like, I want to use this one printing process called sublimation printing, which is where it actually imprints it into the material rather than just on top of. And so we talked about it, but as we talked, she kind of let me know that one of the things she really struggled with is she had a lot of health considerations. She had cluster migraines and everything, and it just made it really hard for her to commit to jobs and stuff. And so she's like, I'm embarrassed because I'm broke all the time because I can't work. I want to create. And I was like, all right, cool. So we found some people who did sublimation printing here in Colorado. And I said, all right, go see if you can get some samples made up. Either you or someone else can present the samples to different shops in town to see if they'd carry your stuff. And these big printing guys wouldn't even talk to her because she wasn't ordering in bulk. So because she wasn't going to order like 1,000, she wasn't worth their time. I kind of know what we can do. I don't know how to do it, but I said, I want you to go to your local small business development center. Every town or county has one. And I want you to talk to them about getting a loan or a grant for this printer. Because I was like, how much do they cost? And she goes, well, they can go up to $25,000, but you can get a real basic one for $5,000. And I said, great. Because you are a woman and because you are facing other challenges, there are monies available to you because they want to help you start a business because they know, you've had a rough go of it. She went to them and she got a grant for a machine. And so, about a month later, she had her machine and it was fantastic. And she was all, excited because she's like, wow, now I can start printing my stuff and then we can start doing this. And I said, now hold up. I said, what's really cool is now you get to be the small batch printer for all your local friends and artists that those other turkeys wouldn't talk to. And she just stopped and she was like, oh my God, you're right. And she's like, I didn't even think of that. And I was like, that's why he hired me. It was just one of those moments where it was like, and she's said to me, over the years we've kept in touch, she's like, I can see a time when I can be a really, truly like contributing member of my household and my community and everything in a way that I never would have been able to before. And so that by and large is my favorite success story. That's kind of why I want to do the work that I do, because a lot of people would have said, oh, you can't work a whole lot, then you're probably just destined to not make a lot of money. It's not even about that, about like a number or whatever, but it's just her feeling her confidence grow. Sometimes even for me, I'm just like, huh? So I was at a horror and Halloween convention with my Halloween business book, and I was doing kind of on the spot consultations, which is something I like to do. Just again, a quick snapshot to have somebody tell me what they love, and I'll say, well, have you thought about doing this, this, or this? And this one kid comes up and he just kind of stares at, he's like, so what do you do? And I told him. He just kind of blurts out, I have over 600 skeletons. I was like, what? And I just kind of waited because I was like, that begs a lot of questions. Are they human, animal? Do I need to call the cops? But he goes on to say, did I make up the little 12-inch toys? And I was like, no, you didn't, but I can work with that. And he stops, he goes, really? How can I make money with that? Challenge accepted. And I said, all right, so you have 600 skeletons. I said, first off, you give them all names and personalities, like the Smurfs, right? And, Doki skeleton, Papa skeleton, whatever. And then, I said, you could do any number of things. He was also an artist, a visual artist. And I said, you could make a comic book about them. You could make stop motion animation. You could create a series of calendars. You could have a web comic where, it's the adventures of Skellytown. In Wisconsin, there's the House on the Rock, which is a roadside attraction. And they boast that they have over 6,000 Santa Clauses. So he said, all right, so you're 1/10 of the way there with your skeletons. I said, set up a museum. Get miniature trains and, have them sit at the cafe or, whatever, and charge admission. And he was just like, what? And like a fool, I gave him my business card and I said, call me and let me know what you do with this. And I did not capture his information. So people who are listening, always make sure you get the contact information of people you'd like to follow up with. I've always wondered what happened to that kid. And I thought, how many watch lists would I get put on if I put something out like on Craigslist, in the missed connections? Hey, do you have over 600 skeletons? Call me. You know who'd be calling me? The FBI. Excuse me, ma'am, is there something we need to know about? So, like I said, I don't know what happened to him, but I was always very curious because that was just one of those times that even for me, who I think I'm pretty worldly and up for anything, I was like, huh?
That's brilliant. I can't believe you came up with so many ideas.
So when we were researching you, we read that you say that it's an asset rather than a hindrance when you don't have money when you're starting your own business, or it can be. So talk about that, because that's not something a lot of people think.
I think traditionally it's the thought is, you have to have money to make money. And while money can be helpful, that's for sure. What's nice about not having any money to start is it forces you to be really creative. Because if you just have money to throw at problems, it doesn't really help you learn a whole lot that could be important lessons. And maybe you're just wasting money because maybe you're being taken advantage of by service people who are like, oh, this person just has lots of money, so I'll just keep telling them, oh yeah, we need to keep doing this project, or yeah, I just need more money to get your website up or whatever. And so it kind of fosters some creativity. Also, now more than ever, there's a lot of power in social capital. And the way things are going with crowdfunding, et cetera, there's something really powerful about putting your goals and dreams out there, which that's something that a lot of people are very nervous about. They've held on to this idea for so long that they don't want to put the baby out there, either to get stolen, like, no, don't take my idea, it's mine. Also, that fear of what if nobody likes it? That's the other part. That's another asset of not having a whole lot of money. Because if you don't have $1 million to put into a product before you launch it, what if you create a dud? What if you spend all that time and money and nobody wants it? And so, if you don't have a lot of money, you have to be resourceful. Try things out on a small scale, and try it out with people to see if anybody would want it. And, you can adjust as you go. Something I suggest to people when they have, say, a product that they want to sell and they're not sure what people would want, I tell them, have an old school Tupperware party type thing, but nobody's allowed to buy anything. It's just you put out, say you're making like soap or jewelry. You invite friends over, you give them cider and donuts, and you have your wares out on a table, and you just sit back and watch. What do people pick up? What do people like? Like, ooh, come here, you got to see this. And then that's a lot of invaluable market research right there. And then you can even say, you're not allowed to buy anything today, but what would you pay for that? Because that's, a lot of people have questions. What should I price my stuff at? So you can just ask. So again, having to be creative about things and be resourceful without wasting a lot of money is really good. I just think you learn a whole lot more about yourself and what you're trying to sell, whatever that might be, if it's a product, a service, information, whatever. It just helps build a solid foundation.
And what about people like the woman you were talking about earlier who do need some kind of seed money and don't know where to go for it? Do you have any tips for them?
Definitely check with your your Small Business Development Center, wherever you are. See what might be available to you, because you never know. There's all kinds of little grants and loan programs that they will know about that you might not necessarily have access to. Also, again, the crowdfunding model is becoming so powerful as a resource for people, because if you can get out there, get your story out there, even if you don't have a prototype or a product yet, if you can, tell the story strongly enough and get people behind you and to back you, become essentially your initial investors. That might be a really good way. But again, that's kind of encouraging you to be really resourceful and ask for help, because I think that's something a lot of people, that's a big stumbling block for a lot of people, is, needing to ask for the help that they need. People want to help other people. The idea parties that I was talking about earlier, that just, that's a really great example of, if you just tell somebody in a way, I want this, but I can't because this. Do you know anything? People will just automatically help. You could do that, in public, on the bus. And strangers are even better because they don't have any investment. They're like, oh, have you tried this? Or maybe you could go here. And I think people are inherently helpful. And we forget that when we're having our negative self-talk of, who am I? Why should I be doing this? Blah, blah, blah.
And what about the woman you spoke about who came to you with 1,000 ideas? What's your advice for people who have multiple passions they want to pursue and want to create more than one revenue stream?
I love them. So that's something I also learned from Barbara Scher. She identified those folks as scanners. That's someone who has a lot of different interests and, they have a lot of energy. They get kind of a bad rap because they get into stuff, and then when they get what they need out of it, they leave it. And a lot of people want you to finish things and, or stick with it. But I say, I want you to do all of those things. But in all honesty, you do have to pick one to start with, at least. Another person I mentioned earlier, Barbara Winter, uses this analogy a lot that I love, and it's that of the plate spinner. If you see a street busker, somebody who is spinning plates, they don't take all 10 plates. They get one on their foot and they get that one going, and then they get the one on their knee going, and then they have the one on their shoulder going. You choose that with projects as well. I love when people have multiple streams of income, because you never know when one is going to dry up, or, when one's going to take off. If you want to have a couple of different things going, that's great. But you do need to give enough life. You need to give enough breath to bring it to life. I am also a scanner, so I understand that desire of wanting to do lots of different things. Or I don't term it for myself as getting bored easily. I just have a lot of interest and I like to have things to go to. So it's figuring out where the energy is strongest for someone. Sometimes it comes down to picking what would be the easiest, fastest win to kind of get the energy going and the momentum going. So it's like, okay, we get this going, and then now what? What's next? Because there are some things that you only want to do once. There are some things that you do a couple of times a year. There are some things that you work on all the time. So I think that's the other thing that people get overwhelmed with or bogged down by, is they think, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. I'm going to be doing this all of these all the time. No, you're not. Everything takes its turn. But you have to figure out what that looks like. And again, that's kind of where I help people determine, kind of like what that might look like for them. I never tell anybody what to do. I always give suggestions, and then I let people figure out what it looks like for them. But I think just the permission that it's okay to want to do a lot of things is really powerful. And so again, that's part of my mission is in the world, for everybody to do their own thing, no matter what that looks like, even if it's doing 1,000 things.
Do you have a weird business idea of your own that you haven't tried yet?
I'm kind of in the midst of trying that out, because I've done a bunch of things. I was a candle maker for a while. My bread and butter business is as a massage therapist. I've tried a lot of really interesting things. And what I'm hoping to move into more with Be Weird, Make Money is go on a almost like a larger scale and start branching out into all the different areas that feel like weird or non-traditional or whatever, and just finding these people and highlighting them. I did 2 things earlier this year of virtual summits, and where it's a different topic for each summit, and you interview people who are making money. Like the last one I did was about gaming. So if you love games or video games, board games, role-playing games, whatever it is, and everyone's always told you, oh, you can't make money playing games, just grow up and get a real job. What are you going to live in your mom's basement forever? I talked to some really awesome, fascinating people who are really killing it in games. And so I wanted to highlight them and say, here's people who are really doing it. And so I want to just keep branching out, kind of become a Pied Piper of weird businesses and be like, wait, whatever you're into, we can probably find a way to either monetize it or find a way for you to bring in money so that you can enjoy life.
What's your dream for weird women everywhere?
I want weird women to be able to share their ideas without fear of shame and ridicule. Like, I always think of myself as skewing younger as far as like who I'm attracting or who I want to talk to. Like, I want to save people from lives of quiet desperation, of, you know, doing that thing for 20 or 30 years that they hate, trying to fit in. But this market of women over 60 who come to me, and again, they have this like, oh, you know, I never really wanted to tell anybody about this because I feel like they'll make fun of me. I want to help them, but I want that to not have to be a thing. I want everyone to, you know, I want all these weird women to just be fearless and bold and be like, I am doing this cool thing and I know you guys are going to love it. And here it is. Yeah, that's my dream, is to, you know, take the fear of ridicule away.
What advice would you give to a young woman who wants to start a business based on her passion?
Try it. Don't be afraid. Be careful who you talk to about it, because, you know, when dreams are new, I read somewhere, every great idea is born drowning. And so you need to foster that little idea, but just give it a shot because you don't know. So just try it. And what's nice is when you're just starting out, if you sit on that idea and never try it, you won't ever know whether or not it will work. Or something people don't often talk about is if you're even going to like it. Because I think some things are, you know, sound really good on paper or in your head, but in reality, it's like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize that. But there's no harm in trying. And so just get out there, find some supportive people, and, you know, maybe who are also going after dreams, so they're going to be less likely to bash yours. Give it a shot. I think
Thanks for
that would
listening
be
to
my
the
biggest
Passionistas
advice, is
Project
just get out
podcast
there
and
and
our
try
interview
it.
with Kimberly Stewart, the founder of Be Weird, Make Money. Learn more about Kimberly at BeWeirdMakeMoney.com. Please visit thepassionistasproject.com to learn more about our podcast and subscription box filled with products made by women-owned businesses and female artisans to inspire you to follow your passions. The spring box is on sale now. Sign up for our mailing list to get 10% off your first purchase. Visit our social media pages to learn about the first annual International Passionistas Day on March 15th and find out how you can win prizes, including being a guest on this podcast, by nominating a Passionista in your life. And be sure to subscribe to the Passionistas Project podcast so you don't miss any of our upcoming inspiring guests. Until next time, stay well and stay passionate.